And this is my last question. I'm Raina Leon, answering questions about Canticle of Idols. And this is a question that is not so much about the book, but of course relates to the book. What inspired you to get into poetry? I have been writing poems. I've been writing since I was a little girl, since before I could really form letters. Since my mother tells a story of taking me to a dance performance, and I don't even think I'd started to dance yet. I didn't start dancing until I was 6. But I wanted to do two things when I was a child. I wanted to go to school, and I wanted to dance. And these two things came from seeing a bus go by my house and saying I want to get on that bus, and watching dance performances, in particular the Nutcracker that used to appear on PBS. When I was a kid, we had like 3 channels, and PBS was one of them. And the others were like staticky, so PBS it was. So I was like, found the dance so amazing and majestic that I wanted to be a dancer. Um, and my mom takes me to this performance, and she says that it was Alvin Ailey. I don't remember. Um, but I was giving critique in my little notebook before I could even really form words like or letters. I'm just writing in scribbles, and I was starting. I was a writer. I was a critic before I was a creative writer, and as far as fiction and poetry. So I've been writing most of my life. And it wasn't until I was maybe around 8 that I started writing journals. And I have all of my journals behind me. Let's see if we can see them. So right in that little corner right by my TV are all my journals. They're double stacked. They're about 80 or 80 something of them um, that I've kept from when I was 8 years old. And some are more full than others. Some have different clips of remembrances in them, or memorabilia stuff in them. But since I was 8 years old, I was writing. Uh, at first, it was reflections and stories. Um, Stories of things I made up, things that were based upon fairy tales or things like that. I didn't write my first poem until I was around 8, maybe in the spring, because usually in the spring is when they talk about poetry. It was a Diamante poem, and in Mrs. Mazuka's class, I remember I kept that poem in an album for years. I decorated it. It was about nature. Don't know where it is now, but I did keep it for years. I found it even as a college student, so I know it's in my paper somewhere. Um, but I started writing poetry because my mom is a poet, and I started writing because it helped me make sense of the world. Um, and every now and then I go back to fiction or nonfiction, but poetry is my heart. So I teach poetry to young people. I teach it now to how to teach poetry to English teachers. Um, Poetry is my heart, and I think it always will be. I hope that answers your question.